Okay, hi, good morning everyone. So now when you go ahead and look at the tutorial, what will happen is I have shown you the formulas of your sum of consecutive numbers. Sometimes it could be natural numbers, it could be even numbers, it could be odd, and the natural numbers could have no power. Single means without any power. Square means the natural numbers will have powers like 1 square, 2 square, 3 square. If it's even, it'll have 2 square, 4 square, 6 square, like that. And if it's odd, it'll have 1 square, 3 square, 5 square. Similarly, cube means again natural numbers with the cube like 1 cube, 2 cube, 3 cube. Even numbers with the cube means 2 cubed, 4 cubed, 6 cubed. And odd, it means like 1 cube, 3 cube, 5 cubes. So that is the meaning of single, square, cube, natural, even, odd. So if I have these kind of numbers and if I have to find the sum of these numbers, okay, then I have shown you the formula as we go along the tutorial. But in that formula, what happened was that by mistake, for the sum of odd numbers with a square like 1 square, 3 square, 5 square, if I have to find the sum of those kind of numbers, then by mistake in the tutorial as we go along, when I have shown you the formula, by mistake I wrote 2n square bracket n plus 1 square. By mistake I copied this same formula. So that is what I wanted to let you all know before you go ahead and look further into the tutorial. So wherever I have shown you this, please make sure that this is not the correct one. So I have rectified it right in the beginning. So I want to let you know that the formula should be n bracket 4n squared minus 1 whole thing divided by 3. So this is not the formula, because as we go along, I said when I show you this entire sheet once more to explain you a little more, so what will happen is you may have this written in the formula sheet. Okay, so this is not the one. So please, wherever you see this, please cancel it for odd. And if it's a square number, square of the odd numbers, and if I want to find the sum of those, this is not the formula. It is n whole thing bracket 4n squared minus 1 whole thing divided by 3. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, hi, good morning everyone. So today the tutorial that we have is on the sum of consecutive numbers. Okay, so if I have to find the sum of consecutive numbers, okay, then what are the different formulas that we need to apply? So first we'll go through the formulas, and then we'll give you examples on how to go ahead and solve questions on each type. Okay, so we have three main categories under this. We have the natural numbers, we have even numbers, and we have odd numbers. So these are the three main categories, and we have the three types of numbers, or the three types of sums. So we have single, square, and cube. Now what do I mean by single and natural? What do I mean by single, even? What do I mean by single, odd? Everything will be explained. So if I have a single and if it's a natural number, then the formula is this. Now what do I mean by a single natural is like this. Let's say a single natural means if I have this kind of a series where we have no powers. When I say single means we do not have any powers, and natural numbers means 1, 2, 3. If I have to find the sum of this, then the formula that we'll be using is n plus 1 divided by 2. Now if I have a single, but if it's an even number, so when I say single and all, it means no power at all. So single, even means, again, these are all even numbers, but single means no powers. So if I have this kind of thing, then the formula is n plus 1. Again, single, odd, again, everyone knows now. By what do I mean by single? Odd means it's just odd numbers, no powers. Okay, you could have a 1 in the front also, doesn't matter. Okay, so that's the formula we'll use. Similarly, now if I have a square and if it's natural numbers, okay, so square natural number means these are all natural numbers, but now the natural numbers will have a square. If I have this kind of question, then the formula will be this n bracket n plus 1 bracket 2n plus 1 by 6. If I have square and even, so we have even numbers, and these even numbers all have a square, then the formula will be this. Okay, and then if I have a square, but if it's an odd number, then this is the formula that I'll use. Again, it's an odd number, and then if it's a square, then this is the formula that we'll use. Similarly, we have for cube. Now if we have a cube and if it's a single, means it's an, sorry, not single, natural number. So cube natural means we have natural numbers. Now these natural numbers will have a cube. If it's even and if it's a cube, then the even numbers will have a cube. If it's odd and if it's a cube, there will be this. So then the formulas accordingly are for cube natural numbers, we have this. If the even numbers and if it's a cube, then this is the formula. If it's odd numbers and if it's a cube, then this is the formula. So these are the 9 different formulas that you will have to know if you want to go ahead and solve sums on the a sum of consecutive numbers. Now if you want to find the sum of these, okay, so how do we apply this? Now how do we go ahead and solve? Now let's go ahead and give you a few examples. Okay, so let's say now if I have a question which says, so let's talk about the single ones, okay? Then we'll move on to the square, then we'll move on to the cube also. Single one, now we first one was single natural number, okay? And the formula, if I wanted to find, was n plus 1 divided by 2. That was the formula to find the sum of, okay, the natural numbers if it's single. So example, let's say if I have a question which says 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus dot 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 20. Say if it says find the sum of this. So I see it's a natural number and no power means it's single. So that means this is the formula I'll use. So if I want to apply this formula, I need to know what is my n. So the last value is known as your n. So n over here is equals to 20. Okay, so then the formula of the sum becomes n plus 1 divided by 2. So we have a 20 plus 1 divided by 2. So when I solve it, I can cancel them. 2 tens are 20. Then I get 10 into 21. That is equal to 210. So the answer of the sum is 210. It's quite simple. Now supposing in the same thing, supposing sometimes we may not have directly numbers starting from 1. Okay, we may have, let's say, an example where it says, let's say we have to find the sum of 14, 15, 16 plus dot dot dot, and it says 50. So if I have to find the sum, again it's a natural number and it's single, means no power, we'll again use the same formula. But the problem is this 50 right now is not a n. Why? Because if I have to take this as n, or if I want to take this as n, then the number has to start right from the beginning, but it's starting from 14. 50 is not the n. So how do I find the n in this case? There are 2-3 ways. So now over here we need to go out and find the n. So what we do over here is now it does not start from 1. So I said like we cannot take 50. So what we do is if I want, what I can write the same thing as I can write, I can say it's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus, I can go all the way to 50. Okay, so we wrote over here right from 1 to 50, but actually the question starts from 14. So what I can do is I can say minus, and then over here we have all the 50 terms, but from the 50 terms, if I do 1 minus, and if I do 13 of them, so that means from the 50, if I minus 13 means I will be getting from 14 onwards, because the actual question is from 14 onwards. So what I write is I write 1 from 50 and then minus, I minus the first 13 terms. So if I minus, if the once they get cancelled, then it starts from 14, 15, and then we get this. So now once I do this, now what has happened is over here also we have the numbers starting from 1 and it goes up to 50. Over here also we have starting from 1 and goes to all this to 13. So over here, if you want, in this first portion, we can say n is equal to 50. And they're all natural numbers. So we have divided the entire question into 2 different categories. So over here also we can say n is equal to 13 and it's a natural number, and then no power in single. So the formula for both of them will be the same thing, and that is equals to S is equal to, over here the sum will also be equals to n into n plus 1 by 2. Over here also it will be n into n plus 1 by 2, and in between we have a minus. So over here, what is the n? Over here n is 50, and we'll do a 50 plus 1 divided by 2, minus over here what is n? N is 13, and we'll do a 13 plus 1 divided by 2. So we get over here, if you want you can cancel 25, so we get 25 into 51 minus over here what do we get? We get 13. This can't be cancelled, but we add, we get what? We get a 14 by 2. They can be cancelled. So we have 25 into 51. That gives me a 1275 minus 13 into 7 gives me a 91. And the answer comes out to be 1184. So that is how we go ahead and solve the questions if we have numbers of the series which does not directly start from a 1. We need to do something like this, so that we have starting from 1, and then we can say what is the n, and then we can apply. Okay, now let's move on to the next part. Now we will be discussing about, let's say, the second type, that is even numbers. So if they say find the sum of the following. Okay, so we have all single, means there are no powers, so this is a single and this is an even. So if I have single even, the formula that we had discussed was the sum will be equals to n plus 1. That's the formula we will use. Okay, so over here, first thing is we have numbers over here, like we have 2, 4, 6, and we have numbers till 20. So this 20 right now is not your, what do you call, n. Okay, because we have a gap of, we have 2, 4, 6, and then we have like this. So how do we find the n for this kind of series? Is, so it's even numbers. So what is the last value? Whatever is the last value, you divide it by 2, and that becomes your n. So over here we have 20, so that means n is equal to 20 by 2, that is equal to 10. So we have n is equal to 10 over here. Okay, so once we have n is equal to 10, then we just apply the formula. So for the sum is equals to 10 bracket 10 plus 1, that will be equal to 10 bracket 11, and that is equal to 110. It's very, very simple. Okay, so that's the answer. So this is how we solve. So if I have these formulas, it is indirectly, you can say, a shortcut, because see, if I could have used the formula of AP also, because see, if I look carefully, 4 minus 2 is 2, even 6 minus 4 is 2. So we have a common difference over here. So if I have a common difference, then we call this as an AP series, and we could have used the formula of the sum of an AP series. Okay, but at times that could be a little bit lengthier, means it will take a little longer time. So we have a shortcut over here, so we could use this formula. Now if someone wants to use the AP's formula also, it's still fine, you can go ahead and use that. Okay, but this is a shorter one. Okay, so third one, supposing if we have odd numbers, okay, it's a single odd, and how do I find the sum? Example, let's say we have 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus dot dot dot, if it says plus 49, and if it says find the sum of this, again there are no powers, so it's a single, and if it's odd, and if I have to find the sum, so if I have to find the sum of this kind of series, then the formula for the sum is equals to n square. Okay, so it's quite simple. But how do I find n? For even, it's very simple. We just have to go ahead and check what the value at the end is, and then divide it by 2, and we get this. But for odd, if I want to find your n, then the formula will always be equal to this. Okay, whatever is the last value, you do a plus 1 and the whole thing divided by 2. So indirectly it means, what is the last value? 49 plus 1 divided by 2. So 50 divided by 2, that comes out to be 25. So over here n is equal to 25. Supposing if your last value was, let's say it doesn't always have to be a 49. Let's say supposing is 57. Isn't this is an odd number? So then how do I find n? All we have to do is whatever is the last value, you add a 1 divided by 2. So what do we get? 58 divided by 2. So we get 2 and then 16. So 26 would have been your n. So that is how you find the n for your odd numbers. Okay, provided you have right from the starting. Okay, and now, so if I have, so this was the actual question, so where we had the n value as 25. So if I want to find the sum, then the sum is equals to n square, that is 25 square, and that is equal to 625. Okay, so 25 into 25 will give you a 625. That's how we go ahead and find the sum of a single series. That means where we have single, we talked about the natural, we talked about the even, and we talked about the odd. Now let's move ahead with the square ones. Okay, so the square ones will have the power as a 2. It will be the same thing, but now let's talk about the first one. That is we talk about the squares now, and then the first one is the natural ones. Okay, the natural squares. So that means how does a question look like for a natural squares? It'll simply be again natural numbers only, like 1, we'll have a 2, we'll have a 3, dot dot dot, and then let's say it goes up to, let's say 10. But now since it's a square, so they are asking us to find the sum of the series which has natural numbers, but it has all squares in it. So then how do I go ahead and find the sum? The sum formula is n bracket n plus 1 bracket 2n plus 1 divided by 6. Okay, so over here first we need to find n. So n, how much is n? So we check how many terms do I have. We have 1, 2, 3, like that. It goes up to 10, means obviously there are 10 terms, because 1 is the first term, 2 is the 2 square is the second term, 3 square is the third term, then 4 square, 5 square, then it keeps on going up to 10 square. So n is equal to 10. So when I put the value of n over here, we get 10 plus 1, and then so we get 2, and then 10 again plus 1 divided by 6. So we get 10, and then we get 11, and then we get 20 plus 1 is equal to 21 divided by 6. And then we can cancel. If you want, you can cancel. 3 2s are 6, and 3 7s are 21, 2 1s are 2, 2 5s are 10. So what do we get? We get 55 into 7, and you can easily get the answer. 55 into 7 gives me 385. That's the answer for this one. Okay, so that's how we solve questions for find the sum of natural numbers, but with which has squares in it. Okay, Now the second one, it talks about squares, but let's say there are even numbers and those even numbers have a square. So like let's say for example we have 2 is even numbers, just like a natural numbers in 2, 4, 6, and then plus dot dot dot. Let's say we have till 16. Okay, then the square, square, square. So if I have this kind of a series, and if they ask me to find the sum, again we go ahead and find the value of n. So again, just like normal even. So what is 16? So this we have to do 16 divided by 2. So we have 8. So we have n is equal to 8. So what will be n? Is 8. So what is the formula? So n is even, so sum will be equals to, sum's formula if it's even is equals to 2n, n plus 1, 2n plus 1 divided by 3. So you'll have to remember all the formulas, okay? So then we put the value of n as what do you call 8. So I get 2, 8, and I get an 8 plus 1, and then we get 2 into 8 plus 1, you can say whole thing divided by 3. Okay, so that much calculation now you'll have to do it. So it says over here 2 into 8 is we get a 16, then we get 8 plus 1 is 9, 16 plus 1 is 17, and divided by 3. So we have 3 1s are 3 3s are 9. Ultimately we get 16 into 3 into 17. So when I multiply 16 into 3, that is 48 into your 17 gives me so 48 into 17, that gives me how much? 48. So we have a 48 into 17. Okay, so that is 48 into 17. So in the rough, when I do it, it'll be 7 is a 56, and for the 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 33, and 1 8 is 8, 1 4 is 4. We get 6, 11, 816. So answer is 816. Is that okay? So that's how we go ahead and solve a question where it says find the sum of the numbers, okay, which are even but which has a square of the even number. Okay, now let's move on to the odd ones. Okay, so let's say for example the odd ones, it'll be a square only, but now we move on to the odd ones. So it'll be 1 square plus 3 square plus 5 square. Then let's say for example a dot plus dot dot dot, let's say it's 11 square. Okay, so what we do over here is we go ahead and first let's write the formula of the sum. Sum will be equals to n 4n square minus 1 divided by 3. That's the formula that we will apply to go ahead and find the sum of the odd numbers with the square. Okay, so then let's first find n. How do I find n? This is odd numbers, so 11 is not your n, so because you have odd numbers, so there are gaps in between. So how do I find n? Just like the previous normal, just like a single where we had odd numbers, even if we have squares, same way. So what we do is last value plus 1 divided by 2, that is 11 plus 1 divided by 2. Forget about the square for the time being. Just imagine there is only 11. So what do I get? I get a 12 by 2, that is equal to 6. So n over here is equal to 6. So what I do over here is, now we go ahead and apply the formula. So what we go ahead and we'll have sum is equals to, we have 6 bracket 4, and then we have a 6 square minus 1 whole thing divided by 3. So we have 6, and then we have 4, 6 square is 36 minus 1, and then a 3. So then we just have to multiply 36 into a 4. We get it as 144. So we have 6 144 minus 1 divided by 3. This will get cancelled. We have 2 and 143. When we multiply, we get 3 2s are 6, 3 4s are 2 4s are it's an 8, and then we get 286. So that's the answer that we get for your this particular series. So we have sum of the series, and then we get that as the answer. Okay, so that's how we go ahead and solve the questions based on your odd, your even, and your natural numbers if it's a square. Then we move on to the cube part. Now we move on to the cube, and then again the first one is, okay, natural numbers of cube. So when I talk about the natural numbers of cube, let's say the question says 1 cube plus 2 cube plus dot 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 plus 10 cube. Okay, so let's say if this is the case, then what do we do is, first the formula to go ahead and solve this is sum is equals to, we have a big bracket, then n plus 1 whole thing divided by 2 square. So first we need to check what is the n. So over here, if it's natural numbers, then n is just the last value. what is it? 10. So n is directly equal to 10. So if I want to find the sum, that is equals to 10 plus 1 whole thing divided by 2 square. So we get 10 bracket 10 plus 1 is 11 divided by 2 square. And then if I want, I can cancel them. So we get 55 square. So 55 square, if you check in the rough, it'll come out to be a 3025. So that's how we find this sum of the natural numbers with a cube. Okay, so that's quite simple, provided I know my formula. Now we move on to the cube, but now we move on to your even numbers. So number 2, it's still your cube, but now we move on to even numbers. And let's give you an example, like it's a 2 cube plus 4 cube plus 6 cube plus dot 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 plus 14 cube. So we have all even numbers, just like the others, like the previous ones, but now we are talking about a cube. So we have this. So what will be the formula of the sum is equals to 2n square n plus 1 whole square. So first we find n. What is n? It's 14. So just like normally what we do is the last value divided by 2 to get the n for your even numbers. That is equal to 14 divided by 2. N is equals to 7. And then we just have to put the value of n over here. So sum is equals to 2, 7 square bracket 7 plus 1 whole square. So we get 2, we get 49, and then we get this as an 8 square. So 2 9s are 18, 2 4s are 8, 98, and then we get a 64. So 98 into 64, when I go ahead and multiply it in the rough, we get 98 into 64. That comes out to be a 6272. That's the answer for your sum of this series, which is all even but which has a cube. So the last one we have is, let's say, odd numbers. Okay, now we have odd numbers, and if it's a cube, so we have 1 cube plus 3 cube plus 5 cube, and then it goes all the way, let's say, till 19 cube. So over here also, what will be the formula of the sum? Sum, we'll have to use n square to n square minus 1. And then over here again, n, how do I get? Last value plus the 1 divided by 2, that is 20 divided by 2, that is n is equals to 10. Once we get the value of n, then sum is equals to 10 square, and then I get 2, I get 10 square minus 1, we get 10 squared is 100, we get 2, again 100, minus 1, we get 100, then it's 200 minus 1, then we get 100, and then we get 199. So then we get it as 19900. That's the answer. So this is how we go ahead and solve all the questions based on this one, okay? And then I think right at the beginning, okay, I may have made an error when I showed you this. I think the error is, I think I gave you the formula of the square of the odd as this. I had given you this, but now actually it's this one, okay? This is the formula that we'll have to use. So you need to be thorough with the formulas. Once you're thorough with all the formulas, this is how we go ahead and apply them. Is that okay? So that's it for the time being, and if there is any other that means formulas or any other type of sums where I feel that you require any help, I'll definitely go ahead and make tutorials on that, and then I will share it with you all. Okay, so that's it for the time being. Thank you very much.